Welcome to another photobook critique. This time we have Kitano Hinako from Nogizaka 46. Now here, as we can see, we have her photobook, and I'm going to look through it, talk about it, give my critiques, good and bad, and then at the end talk about who I recommend this photobook to. So as always, we look at the front cover, the back cover, the inside covers, first page. We look at the inside and then I highlight any photos that I want to talk about. Then at the end, we look at the final page and talk about it. So let's go ahead and start. Here we have the front cover, where we can see Ki-chan right here holding up her legs in the pool. Shot is a little blurry, I'll be honest. The focus is right here instead of on her face. Really deters me. Her nose is in focus, her eyes aren't. But I do like this light coming in from the background, giving her this nice hair light coming from the back. Again, it's exposed for her face, so the background is a little bit brighter. But then we turn to the back and we get a little bit more of a sense of what this photobook is going to be. I don't remember if this was the Amazon exclusive cover or the general cover. But this back one, we get a little bit more of a sense of what Ki-chan is going to go through, which is snow. Then we look at the inside cover, and this is interesting. I haven't seen this done before. It's actually an auto merge in Photoshop of a collage of images on both sides. So right here we can see that it's different photos right here. This is actually done in Photoshop, and it's an automatic setting. You just put don't content aware fill, and then you get this type of feel to it. And it's kind of interesting because we see her progress going through, and same thing over here, we see her progress going through. So I think that's a nice touch, and I actually think this is the other side of this one. Huh, interesting. We open up to a dark scene of something moving in the front. And then we transition over to the next page, which is Ki-chan falling over. This is a really interesting start to a photobook. Haven't seen it done like this. I usually like a photobook to start with a really strong image. In this case, it starts off a little bit more mood setting, which is a little bit different. And I actually do like this, showing off that she's a little clumsy and this is gonna be her. As we see, it just continues this trend of her goofing off and then running outside. Really nice to set a mood and already connect with the person. If you didn't know who this person was and then just open up this photo book and saw this series of images, you're like, all right, this person is really fun and is a little goofy. And then we get finally to the title of the photo book right here, and we see of an image right here that's a little darker than the other ones, kind of setting the mood, and then transitioning over to this next one of her cutting her hair. Very interesting. And as I don't know if you noticed this, but this whole time there's been black borders around, kind of making it look a little bit more cinematic than it does of a usual photo book. And then moves on over here to her with her fresh haircuts, getting ready for the adventure of the photo book. Again, this is really different than usual photo books, where this sets up the environment a little bit more than other ones where it just starts straight in. But then move on to these images, which I kind of wanted to start the photo book right here. But instead we get some of her in the pool goofing off. I feel like we have enough character development that we don't need these right now where they are. I actually have to say, this one right here is one of my favorite pool images that I've seen. Like, distortion is not a factor in these. Light is trickling down with the blue reflecting over here, with her pose being very natural, yet a little bit condensed and concerned. Her head poking out, her expression on her face, all of this is really well done. And after like a whole series, it's like 5 pages or even more of pool images, we get to this one, the start of her adventure finally. I kind of wanted it to start at this other page where it's her cutting her hair, and then it transitions to this one. I think that would have been a little bit smoother transition rather than what seems to be a random pool shoot. After a series of images of her walking around in the streets, we get to this one right here, which is her sneaking by, showing again a little bit more personality as we've seen throughout. And then we get to what's on the inside cover, which is her with some harnesses and doing what seems to be a little bit of roof walking. We have her in different scenarios right here, acting, still keeping that goofy, and if you notice right here, we get the white borders back instead of the black ones. Again, more Goofy Key-chan. Like if you like Goofy Key-chan, this is like the perfect photo book for you. Have her looking through here, a pole and the wall. Right here, what's supposed to be like maybe more of a moody image, a portrait. I can imagine her standing with her back to the camera, looking back. But instead, Key-chan decides to jump. And again, these great expressions from Key-chan, just not worrying, going full out with her expressions, not caring, I think really say a lot about her and say a lot about the photo book. Now, this is a nice mood changer because we have Goofy right here with her on the train, but then we have over here a little bit more in the darkness where the light was coming from, and giving her with this really nice light over here from the top, especially with the light being so close right here, this fall off. It's like the light, then automatic darkness. It's a really nice image, and I think this really helps set in the mood for the next couple of images, which is a little bit more moody. It's a little bit darker in the day, it's in the ocean. Again, really helps differentiate that mood. And then we move on to this big wide one, setting the environment for what seems to be now some snow images. You have Key-chan riding through. Again, not a big fan of Dutch angles, but it's kind of like, oh yeah, look at all this action that's going on. Again, if you want Goofy or cute Key-chan, right here, this is all you need. This image right here is really interesting. You usually don't see this angle. It's a pretty interesting angle, and I think it was for the effect of the snow. Now we move on to a little bit more of a moody image with the monochromatic background with her popping through with the red that she's wearing. I think this image, it works really well compared to these images because everything is like kind of gray and dull, and then she really pops off with the red that she's wearing right here. We do get a little bit of a mood break with these smiling ones of her seemingly falling down, and then moving on to these where she's smiling a little bit more with a more natural type of makeup to her. And then what seems to be out of nowhere, we get Santa Clauses to come and join her. I don't know whose idea this was, or they were just there, but the next series of images are really interesting. Now this photo is such perfect timing. Look at this. It's like they caught it right when the bubble was over her eye. Really nice timing. All blue, wearing blue, bubbles, expression, all good. I kind of wish this image was next to this other image. I guess we do kind of get a similar vibe here, but I feel like we've seen this already at this similar angle. So maybe if this one was next to this one, like in the reverse order, so maybe first this one setting up the mood, and then having her expression right here would have been nice. It's really about that setup and then payoff. Then we move on to once again showing the black borders, setting off a different mood in the photo book in itself. Next we move on to some more images. This is her out on the town and some escalators right here, her posing right here, using the light to the advantage. As you can see, it's a little bit more about her posing towards the camera with the light facing her. It's a really nice way to take the light that you have and then using it for the best that you can. Next we have these images, which is a stark contrast to what we've been seeing lately. Like we've been seeing goofy, cute, and then we move on to these. She has a little bit more of a serious expression. Like this is a little concerned kind of expression to it. This one is trying to be a little bit more sultry kind of expression. And then right here we have the detail of her like holding onto it, gripping onto it, which says a different story in itself. The lighting in this place I feel like wasn't the best. It feels like these are more night images, and I think using the lights as they can, like using the shadows that are falling off to help emphasize different spots of her body and her face, and then right here having it as the backlight, adding a little bit of a hair light, and then having her face be a little bit flat with the lighting really helps out. I feel like they really used the lighting that they had to their advantage. So this is a pretty good photographer for using what he has, he or she, and being able to work with it. Next we move on to some more brighter images that are more white compared to the yellow ones that are before. We have this one right here of her stretching out her shirt, helping setting up the environments for the next couple of images that we see. But that isn't without some Goofy Key-chan, and this one being blurry in fact helps a little bit, because the fact that he was capturing this and then it's blurry kind of shows that she's a little bit all over the place. She was probably jumping like crazy. He's like, oh no, gotta take that picture, gotta take that picture. And I think this actually helps the image more than it hurts it. Next we have some good composition, because right here we have the moose in the foreground, helping set that 3D effect, especially with this background. And then her in the middle, coming out of the moose. It's a really interesting direction to go with, and it's something rare you don't see. You usually see like the framing with the squares like inside of a window, a door frame, but then here we're using the moose antlers. Again, this photographer knows what they're doing, and having her pop out with her wardrobe really helps. And even this image right here, look at this lighting. This lighting is so nice. We have the blue coming in with the orange from what seems to be like a flame, like the two colors mixing over here, and then helping add different definitions. Really nice. And this little smoke over here detail, awesome. And then here we have the fire over here with her in the background, really cinematic. This image is so cinematic, and I think that's that foreground element with the background and her in the middle that really helps it seem cinematic and more 3D and less flat. And especially this expression she has. It's a very nice expression that has to do a lot with acting. Next we have these two images next to each other. I think it's really interesting. I think this isn't something that someone would usually think about. This is a really artistic way to think about it, because this is coming from the fire ones, holding the hands, getting warmed by it, a little break, and we have her in the blasting cold with little sneak peeks of skin, and really helps contrast these two and like helps set up, especially if you read it from the way that you're supposed to from the photo book, which is from right to left. And again, scans would not be able to emphasize this as much when you flip it from the previous page onto this page, transitioning over here. It's really only something you can see when you're opening up the photo book in your hands. Now we have her in a really cold environment. I'll just say it looks really cold. But we have the red really popping off from the muted blue background as we've seen in other images used before. Now you have this really nice image, really nice close-up of Hee-chan right here, focusing really on her face. Having a little bit of the background in the eyes, it being white really helps highlight her eyes, adding a little bit more dimensionality to it. I wish this one was a little bit wider, just so we can have more of a separation of this one being really close and this one being a little bit more wide. Then we move on to the final sequence of images, which are these three right here. As you can see, it is her looking up, remembering all that happened during her trip, and looking at you, kind of saying, do you remember? And then of course we move on to all of these others, photos that weren't used, and actually one of my favorites in the photo book were actually not used, and it's this one right here. It's a nice wide image with the light being spotted on her, coming in from this angle, really helping her face out, and the big painting in the background really making her look small and making this environment look larger than life. Also honorary mention to this image right here. And that does it. Here's the end of the photo book. Don't know how to think about this one, because on one hand we have her face cut off, but on the other hand it's kind of like, hey, her face is cut off because she's walking away to the end of the photo book, on to life. And that does it for this photo book. Now originally when I first looked at this photo book, I was glancing through it, I was like, it's like a little higher than average photo book. But now looking at it again, you know, sitting down, actually analyzing it, I could see that there's a lot to see on this, whether it's the brightness with the goofiness, with the white borders, or the darkness, more cinematic, black borders around. There's a lot of aspects to this, a lot of artistic choices that I really liked. Only thing that threw me off a little bit was the pool scene. I wish it was in a different spot, but I think overall, much stronger than I originally thought, and puts it pretty high up there. It's a strong photo book for sure. So who would I recommend this to? Hee-chan fans, of course, that's automatic buy. But I think overall, this is a strong photo book. If you enjoy photo books, I think this is one to pick up and check out for yourself. We saw, for example, of how in person it's much better than looking at scans online. Like, this is a step up above that, but still having it in your hands, holding it up, being able to see everything, going through the flow of what the artist originally intended. I think for this photo book, it really shows off. So yeah, let me know your opinions about this photo book down below. If you want to share my opinions to other people so you can hear their opinions, please share this video. Leave your comments down below. Once again, really interested to see what you guys think about the photos that I highlighted. And I'll catch you guys in the next photo book critique.